You've waited for so long. We are standing on your bones. We are calling you home. We are thankful for your gifts. We are thankful for your song. You've waited for so long. Ancestor helping spirits, you who lived and died while you met the challenges of your time. We ask that you right this injustice. We ask that you find these bodies. We ask that you bring these children home if you can. If you can't, then just help us to find what has happened and to bring those who have done wrong to justice. We honor you. We ask for your help.
Introduce yourself.
My name is Luis Bayamanacoe Ramos.
So we're here at Indigenous Day of Remembrance. When did Indigenous Day of Remembrance started, and what does it represent?
Okay, 7 years ago, a group of us got together, mostly Taino and Dakota, and we went to the Columbus Circle there by the statue, and we said some prayers. We marched around the statue, and we placed, it was flowers for our ancestors. That was 7 years ago. And every time we come back the day before Columbus Day to honor our ancestors who died, in the very beginning.
So, in your own view, what does Indigenous Day of Remembrance represent?
It represents honoring our ancestors, that they did not die in vain. Yes, they were murdered, it was massacres, but we're still here. Their blood still is alive in us, and we carry that blood memory. And they're good people, we're good people, and their voices need to be heard.
And it's interesting just to mention, we both have red on, which represents the blood of the ancestors.
That's right, red is very powerful. It's their blood, man. It's their blood. And we carry their blood memory.
So with that said, I want to say give thanks, and we'll see you again soon.
Good job. Thanks, man. Keep it up, people.
We're part of the group of indigenous in North America, even though we used to live many thousands of years in the north, and then we went down to the south. We took us approximately 20,000 years to go from the north to the south to look in the belly of the continent. So where the Gran Tenochtitlan will be built, now Mexico City. According to our calendar, we're supposed to come back by the 6th sun. We are in the 6th sun. And sometimes it's really bad that they're still calling us illegal immigrants when we didn't came from Europe, Asia, or Africa. So when you see a Mexican, they are really Native Americans, and you can see in the pictures. But it happened since 1492, since Europeans came with the Cristobal Columbus that they are celebrating. For us, it's not good to celebrate because it's like celebrating the genocide, the invasion, because for us it's an invasion, it's not a colonized.
I also want to add, don't believe me, don't believe her. You can find out for yourself. You can just go and look up primary sources. Primary sources are the documents that happened at the time when history happened, okay? I challenge each one of you to go and do your research. Read the Christopher Columbus diary. It's a very interesting document. In there, you will find out what he was thinking. And what he was thinking is coming to this country, specifically, the moment he arrived at the Caribbean, he said, these people will become my slaves. Okay? He said it. I'm not telling you that. You can look it up for yourself. And on top of that, the moment he arrived, there were people living in the islands. So he came here and he invaded other people's territory. And so I just want to challenge everyone to think about it. Think about it. Someone coming to your house, coming to your territory and saying, this is mine. I don't care what the Taino land name was before. From now on, is, I don't know, Saint saying something, and he given names. He went around, the moment he arrived, he went around every single island, renaming the islands, not thinking what the original names of those islands were. So that's why, once again, my opinion is that don't believe me, just look it up yourself, and you will find the truth. The truth will set you free, and what every historian knows, do your research, find out with primary sources, you will know the truth, and then you make a real judgment. Do not just believe what you hear in TV or what you've been told since high school. You know, Christopher Columbus discovered America. Maybe for Europeans it was discovered, but it wasn't really discovered because people were already living there for thousands and thousands of years. So that's something that I just wanted to add. You may continue.
And the genocide, because many people use in history, oh, poor Jewish, they killed them. But you never hear, oh, Native Americans have been suffering genocide since 1492 until this day. Clear example, September 26th, Guerrero, Mexico, Ayotzinapa, they killed 43 students. 43, they were at the ages of 16, 17, 18, until 23. So the genocide that we still suffer and is still here. Many communities, indigenous communities in all the whole continent is still displaced. Many of the Native Americans here in the reservations, they don't have the right to plant, the harvest their own food. They can travel miles to get out. They are lack of fresh food. They are lack of any human services, base human services, not even talking about the luxury that many Europeans have. And the worst thing for me is sometimes that Europeans stole everything from us, and they want more and more and more because they are so greedy. And they're still killing us because of the land, because of the natural resources, because of everything. And the worst thing that really makes me bad and bothers me is the arrogance, the prepotence. Like, this is mine, you know? This is mine. When did you buy it? When? And the other thing that it really, the corruption that we're still suffering in the whole continent is based on that, because the crimes that they commit to my ancestors, and they still committing now, they never pay. They never went to jail. They never were to judge. And they're still not having any judge. We haven't had any justice. Not even, I'm sorry, not even, we're gonna take out these barriers, these frontiers, these divisions that they put, because they impose all these things. They impose the system, they impose a religion that has been lack of knowledge. The religion that we have is not our religion. They never asked us, they destroyed these books, they destroyed this knowledge that my ancestors used to have. And that's something that we cannot recover. And they never pay for these things. And really, it's really injustice, it's really not right as a moral values, as a human values, and I went to a philosophy class and they told me, oh, you cannot, well, if they give me a parabola of the Buddha that didn't accept the bad gifts, but we haven't accepted these bad gifts. They imposed these bad gifts to us. They didn't give us anything good, and the worst thing is that they are killing the nature, they are killing our elements, water, air, fire, and land. And if they are killing these elements, they are killing ourselves. Because they haven't understand that everybody is connected in many ways. By air, by water, by land, by sun, that there's the energy. So basically, I think humans have to really work a lot in their conscience. And the conscience, that's what, for my ancestors, was the most important thing, the development of a spirit, the development of human values, of the human rights, the moral values, the philosophy. We weren't ignorant. We used to have philosophy, science, architecture, astronomy, astrology, math, science, medicine, but our way of living it was in natural resources, in a balance.
Peace, Taino T. Please introduce yourself.
Esperanza Martell from El Bohio, Atabey, Grandmother's Circle.
So we are here at Indigenous Day of Remembrance. The first thing I would like to ask you is, what does Indigenous Day of Remembrance represents to you?
For me, it's the day where we let our ancestors speak, remember their struggles of resistance, and the gifts that they gave us that we still, as Boricuas, as Puerto Ricanos, we still using Taino words. Some of us are relearning the language. The children are dancing, so that our community is reclaiming our ancestry. Also, it's not to forget, never forget the genocide attempted by Columbus against us and all the Europeans who colonialized the Caribbean and Latin America. We stand with justice and with freedom for our people and the return of the land to all indigenous people from Palestine to Puerto Rico. We will be free. And that's what this day is about for me.
So what I would like to get into next is if you can please introduce to the people about your spiritual circle. When did it start, and what do you guys do for the community?
Okay. Well, El Bohio Atabey, it's a spiritual circle of grandmothers that has been around for, I would say, over 70 years. Vanessa Inaru is the founder with other grandmothers, and what we do is we teach young women the Taino way as we have reinterpreted and reclaimed our cultures. The Tainos are Mecroatli, that means that they're in the lineage of the mothers. We are survivors as a people because of the gift of the grandmothers. So whether it's herbology, whether it's learning about the stone people, whether it's about using salt water. Adiós, mucho gusto.
Ojalá nos pueda acompañar
Sí,
y a ver cómo podemos apoyar. Le di mi tarjeta, ¿verdad?
Sí, yo te voy a llamar para...
Hacemos diferentes cosas y necesitan apoyo como técnico, gráfico.
Hablamos. Where was I? We use all the elements and train the young women on how to be women, to be powerful women, and really reclaim their power, understand their blood, understand the relationship to the moon, to their blood, understand the magic of cooking and healing with herbs and with your food. And we use every element to heal our community, and our spirituality is also very brings forth the issues, because it's not enough to pray. You have to pray and be in action. So today it's an example of prayer in action. We, as indigenous people, and we claim our African ancestry also, we are passing on the lineage to the same way my mother passed it to me. I get to pass it to the next generation and the next generation, and they will pass it to their children and their children's children. So it's all about building community and keeping our nation alive and free. Hankatu.
Give thanks. Next, what I'd like to get into is how important is the culture to the community?
The culture is what gives the community life. We as Puerto Ricans, as Boricua, we're mostly working class. That means that we're poor. And as many say, our community is dying. It's dying because of the drugs, because of all the illnesses that basically capitalism causes. You know, cancer, alcoholism, drug abuse, high blood pressure, asthma, diabetics, and I could go on and on. And what keeps our community alive is the pride of being Puerto Rican. And that it's expressed in the music and the food, in our relationships with one another, which is very special within the Boricua Puerto Rican community. So that's, and I'm not only talking of this dance and there's painting and, did I say cooking already?
Yes.
Food is very important.
Yes.
Food is like very important. So, you know, people say, no, the Taino culture is not alive, but if you say, y la última arepa que te comiste, y los juanines, y la yautía y la vianda que te mandaste, eso es bien taíno, como que no están presentes en nuestra cultura los taínos.
My name is Mariah Garcia Reynoso, and I'm 14 years old, and I just wanted to share a little bit about the topic set today. I'm going to give you guys two things that may seem like they're not related to each other at all. That tower right over there, and that tree. That tower and everything that tower represents was built off the genocide of my ancestors. That tree represents everything that was here before all of this occurred. As a young person, I talk about this stuff in school and people look at me like I'm crazy, like I don't know what I'm talking about. Because there's a book that tells you stuff that isn't true. Because the system is built for us to fail, and it's built for us not to know what happened and what is going to happen. All of this stuff about Ebola and all these diseases and everything going on in World War here, World War there, all of that is a distraction. Because our mother is dying, our earth is dying, and nobody's going to stop it until all the rivers are dry, every last tree is dead, and there's no plants left to feed anyone, and there's nobody left to get educated. And I feel like the worst part about it is that everybody's walking around and they don't know. They're covering their ears so they don't realize what's going on, so they can just forget about the truth and just what's going on because nobody cares. As a young person, my responsibility is to tell everybody that I know, because if not, we're going to keep on walking around like nothing is going on, like nothing is going to happen.
All right, please introduce yourself.
My name is Peterson.
And we're here at Indigenous Day of Remembrance. And what I want to ask you is, what does Indigenous Day of Remembrance represent to you?
It represents genocide, of course. They came over looking for something that was not belonging to them. They enslaved a lot of people, killed innocent women, children, enslaved the men, did it in all parts of the Caribbean, making them forgetting their culture and learn theirs. So it's a, it's a very, very, very sad history.
Right. I agree with that. So what does culture represent to you?
Culture represents like the life that my ancestors lived, that I continue living through them and the teachings, and birthing your ancestors' spirituality and things like that.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. I know I've met you before, like through a brother that I know. His name is Brother Rich, downtown Brooklyn.
Yes,
so
yes.
It's an honor to be with you here today, just to honor our ancestors here at Indigenous Day of Remembrance. So, what I want to close out is how important is this to pass this down to our children, to pass down the fire? Like, what's your opinion on that?
It's very important to pass it down because what it is, America is making us forgetting our history and our stuff, making us live in their history. It's very important because you never know where you're going unless you know where you've been. That's very important to any tribe, regardless of what nationality, what tribe you represent.
Right.
All of us suffer the same thing. And I'm from the southeast, so we were one of the biggest hit region when they came. You know, there's a lot of unknown history that people need to learn. And like I say, it's so sad that we were forced to learn their history. Like if you say something about the mound builders, that's like an unknown thing to people. But for us, you know, I could go home and I could see the mounds every day if I want. You know, but it's an unknown history that need to be taught in schools, mainly in schools.
I agree. And with that, thanks again. I say peace.
All right, the peace.
All right, peace.
The indigenous wisdom that has been more than 500 years still alive and still we are learning. But in this society, that's not how it is. When you go to university, you learn how to make money. You forget about spirituality. You forget about your elders. And you forget, most importantly, to teach your children. What is wrong with you? Maybe some of you are great, but the majority are just thinking, how I can have a car? How can I live in the building? Or how can I be reading and learning the dishonest history of Columbus? The men came with the criminals, and I'm sure most people are going to feel bad. But when they came with him, they were not highly educated people. They were in the jails. They were like rapists, antisocials. They came to America. At the time it was called Abyayala in the Kuna language, this continent. But another issue, in this country people think America is only from the south or from the south of Canada, from the north of Mexico. As Malcolm X used to say, America is from the Inuit land until Patagonia, where this man is one of the 3 survivors from the Kawaskar people in the south. We are in this situation, as you have heard from our sisters and brothers, we have all kinds of problems. Why they wanted to do that? Because we still live in the land. We still are keepers of the wisdom, and they wanted to make us a business and money, but they don't want to help us. Because of that, I wanted to tell you, we have been coming every year here, but not to make anyone too angry, but to say, open your hearts, not to think with this, but with this. If you change in your heart, you will be able to survive. You will be able to smile, a true smile. I want to see now, without any difference, can you look around and can you shake your hands as the brothers and sisters? I wanted to see you. Can you shake your hands? Some of them are like, maybe I can't because, I don't know, maybe I am different. No one is different in this Mother Earth. And one more thing here. Most people believe that the United Nations is the place where we can ask. The United Nations is going to save us. That's not true. Do you remember when we marched about the climate? They send us to different directions. They don't send us over there. Why? Because The corporations put money. The corporations don't want us to be saying something. And I will tell you, in 2009, May 18, because I was voicing the voice of the people and for Mother Earth, they said you are not welcome anymore. I am not welcome, but who gives a shit? Because the United Nations is a place where it's full of cockroaches and rats. They don't think. They think they live in the skies. They don't think about the Mother Earth, about the water, about the human rights. They don't care about it. They are just living there happy making money. They think they are going to live, I don't know, endlessly. Because of that, I want to tell you that United Nations also has the Secretary for the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues. That's the tail of the whole United Nations. But every year, they spend 2 weeks of meeting, almost $1 million. And for what? They go to sleep over there. They go just to have fun. And that's why our brother has organized this place, because we wanted to tell you that you must think life is running and the water is being destroyed. Because of the United Nations is a monster that helps to the corporations. And I'm sure you know, in South America, for example, the Mapuche, they're fighting more than 300 years against the Spaniards, against the modern republics. And they're not going to give up. Neither we are going to do. I am from Ecuador. I am from the Incas. I am an Aymara. But I live in Ecuador. We are powerful. We have, as I said, the blood. We have a wisdom to offer you. But most people think the Indians are crazy. We are not crazy. We are disappointed because the society always thinking the money. You don't think about the family. You don't think how to protect the land. You don't think about what's going on with your neighbors' human rights or what's going on with the other creatures that are under the earth. You don't think about it. That's why I'm disappointed. But indigenous people, we are here in the cities, in the mountains, in the desert. We are here to share with you. Nobody has discovered yet. We cannot go to other planets. This is the only planet that we have, and we must protect. Most people think the Mother Earth is like our mother. But once you live from here, you forget about it. Mother Earth, our mother, our human rights, our spirituality is every second, every moment until you return to the land. Nobody dies. Simply your body returns to the Mother Earth. That's why I'm not using that you die. In Ecuador, we have a monster government. That idiot studied it here in the United States. He was trained like a dog. Here, his name is Rafael Correa. He's an idiot, enemy of the indigenous and campesino people, enemy of the environment. Why I say that? Maybe people think that he's a great government. No. In 500 years and more, he's still killing us. It's still the genocide going on. As the sister was saying, what's going on in Nicaragua, as it's going on in Mapuche, as it's going on in this country. For example, right now, people are also united. They're having meetings. They're praying not to celebrate October 12th. This is called discovery. What discovery? We were alive. We had already powerful societies. States were federated. If you talk about Aztecs, if you talk about Incas, if you talk about other indigenous peoples here in North America, who can say that this man came and discovered? He was lost. One thing I know is that the elders in the Caribbean islands, the descendants of the Arawak and the Taino, told me that he was lost. The indigenous people rescued him and the tribulation and the people. And the results that he discovered. But anyway, so the environment has been destroyed in Ecuador. The Yasuni National Park, That's recognized by the UNESCO. That said something at the UN. That said something at OAS. But nothing is happening. And over there is going to kill 3 indigenous peoples, nations. The Warani, Onyaminani, the Taruminani. And the government says we have to think about our situation instead of the money, but he's not doing that. So not only the environment is being destroyed, but also as indigenous people we are being destroyed. So that's why I ask you, you are very powerful, but it depends on you. You must teach your children the true history, what is going on right now and what happened. And if you cannot find the true history in the books, go to the neighbors, go to the indigenous places, and they will tell you the truth. And the last thing, since the United Nations, when any institution at the international level doesn't want it to be accountable to us, to the indigenous peoples, I suggest to you, we should create the United Indigenous Nations so we can have our own institution and defend our rights, defend the Mother Earth, defend strengthen our spirituality, and be welcome everyone. So thank you very much to you for listening, and the Creator will be with you.
Peace, Taino. Introduce yourself, please.
How you doing? My name is Roman Guaraguaorix. I'm Quisqueya, Dominican Republic.
And we're here at Indigenous Day of Remembrance, but before we elaborate on that, please tell the people about yourself and your community.
Sure. Again, I'm from Quisqueya. I was born in Baitoa, Arriba Baitoa, República Dominicana. It's a camp up in the northwest by Santiago. My family is from Baitoa and Guadalajara. Baitoa is my dad is from, Guadalajara is my mom is from. My family is tobacco growers, primarily. 7 generations of tobacco growers in Quisqueya. I came here to this country when I was 5 years old. We migrated here, 8 brothers and sisters. We decided here in Brooklyn, pretty much like Brooklyn, New York. My community is my Yucayeque Taino. My family and I have been part of that community since the mid-90s. Today, the caretakers and leaders of that.
So we're here at Indigenous Day of Remembrance, and what I would like to ask is, what does Indigenous Day of Remembrance represents to you?
Indigenous Day of Remembrance, I was here since the beginning, the inception of it, 7 years ago, and the mission and the way it was started was to embrace our ancestors and remembering them, and have a day where we would remember them, and why we picked here Columbus Circle, so we don't forget of the things that, atrocities and things that our ancestors went through, so we could be here today. So Indigenous Day of Remembrance to me is a day of bringing your ancestral songs, your stories, so you can pass it on to the future generation, the children.
So one thing I would like to elaborate on is how important is language to culture?
Language in general, I always tell people, regardless of what your background is, whatever your people are from, is to try to find your language, to know your language. Some languages, like our language, particularly Taino language, is a written language. So a lot of it is oral tradition, or maybe what the chronicles that people wrote of our language. So we as Taino people are struggling to regain our language, to use it, and get some of those lost words. But in general, I think indigenous people or people from wherever you're from, it's always good to get in touch with your language and learn it and understand it, because then you're more closer to your ancestors.
So what I'd like to ask next is, what does material culture represent to you as far as the Taino people, our ancestors, the community, and beyond?
Material culture? Don't quite understand the question. Say material, materialistic as to what
material
we don't have or
as
what
in,
we do have?
You know, like what we have with the yuca, the bates,
Okay.
the aritos.
So what we have as Taino people, many words got into the language with respect to our foods that we eat, the batata, the yuca, the tortilla, fruits, guanábana, guava. So there's many of those words that the Spanish didn't have words for, the Europeans didn't have words for, that are in the dictionary today. And so we have a lot of those words. Also there is the dwellings, the bohillos, and the homes, and the hamacas that we slept on. There's a lot of survival of the medicinal plants, tabacu, which is tobacco, one, and many of the other herbs and things that are out there that we need to embrace. The material stuff, I guess, that is still around, is still here. There's some things that we don't know. For example, the word digo. I've been searching and trying to find out what is the equivalent plant to that today. Guayo. So there's certain things that we do not know yet. That I don't know anyway. Maybe somebody else does out there. So the maracas, the instruments that we use, the maracas, the mayabacan. So all these things are things that we have of our people that are still around and we can still use, see. The museums of people are making them today too. People are starting to make instruments. People are starting to make the mayabacan. People are making the maracas. People are making bohillos still. I mean, my family still back home still live in bohillos. They still live up in the mountains. They still live in places where there's no running water or electricity. They're still living like that today. That's something that hopefully one day I have plans to get back to in the future.
So in closing, is there any message would you like to put out there for our youth?
Well, for the youth, I tell the youth, like in my family in particular, and I like to share with all the youth, is not to forget your ancestors. Today we are with this social media, electronics, technology, something as simple as password, right? So you have a password. So you maybe use the password as your ancestors' names, your ancestors' village. So you don't forget certain words, or you don't forget them. So I know that's why I tell my nieces and nephews, it's like use your grandparents, use your ancestral words that are still around. For the youth, also is not to let society today, the world today as we see it, to get you down, but continue to research about your ancestry, about your history, about your people, have your parents do their DNA tests. And there is a lot of things, a lot of resources out there today because of the internet. There's dictionaries that are available online, a lot of information. Videos like this here that you can go on YouTube and click Taino and find information. So you're not alone. Many years ago, a lot of us were alone, finding and researching. We paved ways, we put stuff out there that's available to the youth. So it's important that you embrace your culture today. And some youth are mixed. Some youth are mixed of many, like my children. Some youth are mixed of different nationalities. But if you have the indigenous roots and they're there, that's one that you can lean on. That's one that spiritually speaking and holistically in all different ways is nature that you can incorporate into your life and continue to learn from. There's a lot of elders, there's a lot of resources out there using it.
As I said, I want to say give thanks.
Thank you.
And we'll see you soon. It was a pleasure.
And just representing here the Universal Zulu Nation, which is an international group all across this planet. historically, when I was small, probably about the size of this little girl that's right here, they used to take me down south with my family in Georgia. And down there, we would hear, when I was small, about the Seminole Nation and how we were part of that nation. Unfortunately, you never really heard much of that history. Most of it was in Florida. I had the pleasure by the ancestors to spend 4 years traveling throughout the Southwest. So I made myself to Oklahoma, to a town called Wawoka, which is the capital of the Seminole Nation after the forced exile.
It's cool. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Dwight Curry.
And we're here at Indigenous Day of Remembrance. And what I would like to ask you is, what does Indigenous Day of Remembrance represents to you?
Well, it represents my ancestors that actually I didn't know about until I was about 30 years old. My uncle introduced me to the Native American culture, which I, growing up, didn't know that I was a part of. So when I began to learn and educate myself on it, I feel my ancestors with me a lot now in this time that I'm really pushing forward. This day means a lot because we need to free ourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. If you free your mind, you will be free. If we teach our children, our grandchildren about our ancestry, they would have a much better understanding of what we're dealing with and what we're going through on this physical day.
So one thing I would like to elaborate on and build, how important is passing down the culture and heritage to our youth?
Yes. Well, you know, there's a lot of literature, there's a lot of information out, there's museums, especially I've seen a museum that I haven't gotten a chance to go to yet, because with today's society, everybody needs to hustle and bustle and try to make, I call it unnatural living, because paper doesn't do anything for you. You can't eat it. The land or mother is more important, but being that I have so much responsibility, I don't have time to get there. But these museums, this literature, this education that's out there, we need to really, really push our children. We need to give them an understanding of who we are, who our people are, so that they would understand that in the long run, we can be free within, because this universe, this earth, the galaxy and everything belongs to us because we are all a part of it.
Right, I agree. And once again, I say give thanks.
You
Taino T, please introduce yourself.
My name is Miguel Sague. I'm the Vehique of the Caney Indigenous Spiritual Circle, and we've been in existence as an organization since 1981.
Okay. So we're here at Indigenous Day of Remembrance. What I would like to ask you is, what does Indigenous Day of Remembrance represents to you?
Well, we understand that there is a 520-year history of oppression, which began when Columbus arrived in the Caribbean, which is our homeland, Taino homeland. Every year, that arrival is celebrated here in the United States and in many other parts of the world as some sort of a glory day for Italian people because he happened to be Italian. The fact is, though, that the event of Columbus's arrival is really more of an embarrassment, it's more of a shame, because what Columbus did when he came to the Americas was essentially begin the extermination, systematic enslavement and extermination of indigenous people here. Now, I don't think that that should be celebrated. So what we do here is, this is our response to the celebration of Columbus Day. We have a day where we remember the indigenous people of the past that suffered as a result of that event, the indigenous people of today that are still suffering as a result of the effects of colonialism, imperialism, and what we as modern human beings, both indigenous and non-indigenous, can do to turn all that around.
Okay, thanks. So what I would like to ask is if you can elaborate more on the Caney Spiritual Circle and when did it start?
The Caney Indigenous Spiritual Circle is a religious spiritual organization based on the traditions of the Taino indigenous people of the Caribbean. We were the people that lived in the islands when Columbus arrived, and we had our own, my ancestors had their own religion, their own spiritual tradition. Unfortunately, that tradition was largely eliminated by the colonial Spanish because they felt that it was expression of devil and demon worship. So what they did is they oppressed and suppressed the spiritual manifestations of the spiritual tradition of the indigenous people. Some of those traditions, however, survived in one way or the other. They became part of the larger syncretic culture of Cuba, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Jamaica, and the other Caribbean islands. So what we've done is we've dedicated to taking whatever little has survived and bring it out of the syncretic culture and reestablish it as our spiritual tradition. We also get a lot of information from the writings of the Spanish who wrote a lot of the stuff that they saw. They were witnesses to the religious and spiritual traditions of my ancestors, and they wrote it down. So we get a lot of information from that. And we also get a lot of information from the spirits themselves. Inspiration directly from the spirit realm is a very important source of inspiration, of information that we use to rehab our culture as a people. We've been in existence, the Caney Circle, this organization, has been in existence since 1981. That's when it was founded as officially as a spiritual organization, as a church. This group became part of the Taino Resurgence Movement in 1991, when the Taino Resurgence Movement began to explode on the world scene, and we've been part of that ever since.
So what I would like to ask next is, how important is culture to the community?
Well, we believe that culture is what people do. In the dominant culture of the Americas, of North America, of the United States, people get up at a certain time in the morning, they eat something called breakfast, they go out, they work, they dress in suits and ties, men put on ties, and so these are all manifestations of culture. People take it for granted. They think that that's just an average, normal thing. But what they don't understand is that they're manifesting their culture by doing these things, by putting on suits and ties, by putting on shoes that tie with shoelaces, by eating breakfast in the morning. These are things that are unique of the culture of North American Caucasian people. What we are trying to do is we're trying to reanimate the culture that was lost, what we used to take for granted, my ancestors used to take for granted as the thing that you do on a normal basis, and we're trying to reintegrate it into our lifestyle today, because we believe that it is valuable for us as a people to recapture, to bring back some of those elements of culture that have been lost. We feel that it's valuable in the putting together, bringing back the pride, the self-respect of our people.
So in closing, is there any message that would you like to put out to our youth in the community?
To youth, mostly, because I am approached a lot by young people, please go out there and research. Do the work. A lot of people just want to come and just be told everything. And that's just, it's not possible to get the information that they want just from asking. Yes, that is a source, but they need to get to work, do what I did when I was young. We have to read, that's one way of getting information. Read, get online. It's a lot easier now than it was when I was younger because I had to go to libraries. Now you can get on the internet and Google anything. Inform yourself about your culture so that when you come to me, you're talking from a position of some information. So you're not talking from a blank. It's easier to share wisdom when a person already has done some homework. And I believe that our young people need to do more homework. If they're really interested in their culture, they really need to do their homework.
With that, I say give thanks and see you again soon. Okay.
Thank you.